This is my review of the book that I decided to read in March for my continuing New Year's resolution that I've had for a few years, where I find a book that I haven't read. Sometimes I find a book that I have read, but most of the time it's a book that I haven't read before. And then at the end of the year, figure out which book was my favorite or which ones were my favorite. And I thought that I would just share it as I go along in case, there's other people who love to read out there, and maybe something that I read might seem interesting to somebody and somebody might want to read it. So I thought that I would share. So for March, I read this book, which was The Body in the Woods by April Henry. And I actually didn't pick this book out. It was my daughter who picked it out from a used bookstore quite a few months ago, and she never got around to reading it, so I thought that I would read it to her. She rated it a 10 out of 10. She had said that overall she felt like this book would be hard for people who maybe are a little bit more sensitive to get through, and I would have to agree with her. It was pretty graphic, I would say, in some parts of the book. Overall, it was a really good mystery kind of book, like a puzzle-solving kind of book. It was suspenseful. It made you think a lot. I figured out so there's a group of teenagers who are part of some sort of search and rescue squad that go around and look for like missing people or crime scene investigations, and they end up uncovering or stumbling across a crime scene and have to help solve what happened. And there's just a variety of people that they end up coming across who could be, suspects in the case and all of that. And so it's kind of trying to figure, all of that out. I ended up figuring it out, I would say, about halfway through the book. And there's also parts in here that really tugged at my heartstrings. There's a girl named Alexis who has a mom that suffers with a pretty severe mental illness. And just hearing her perspective on her mom, how her mom, acts, and different things that she experiences in relation to living with her mom and all of that, I could really resonate with. And it, to me, was just, I think, a good book. It was overall, I think, pretty decent. So it was a pretty good book. Again, it was kind of graphic, so it is a little bit hard to read. And then I thought that I would share a little bit about, since I read this book around this time of year a few years ago, and I thought that I would talk a little bit about it. So this book was given to me. I used to talk about MBTI, Myers-Briggs kind of things, and I ended up coming across an ENTP who wanted to start a book club, and they thought that I would really enjoy this book, and so they sent it to me pretty much, I think, mainly because they thought that I would enjoy it, since I am of Polish heritage, and this book is kind of set in that region, and they just thought that I would, find it interesting or enjoy it. And this isn't a book that I think I would ever find on my own, or come across myself, or think of to read. And I, without giving a whole lot of it away, I haven't read it in quite a few years, but from what I can remember, it is a story about a man who is either a doctor or some kind of a medicine man who lives in the woods or some kind of a village, And he goes out and he gathers like herbs and medicinal things to help people. And I could be getting some of this wrong because it's been quite some time since I read it, but I'm just trying to go based off of what I think I remember from it. And a woman comes across his home. I think it's winter time, and it's kind of confusing how she got there, and she needed some kind of help, I think. So he took her in. He ended up being scared of judgment from people in the village, in his community, judging him for having this woman living with him, and they weren't, I think, because they weren't married. And so he tried to like keep her hidden, and she became pregnant eventually, and she was about to give birth and needed a midwife. And so he refused to leave to go and get a midwife because it made him even more fearful then of the judgment of other people, and just was really selfish and pretty much focused on his own status and how people would perceive him instead of this woman and his child. And so he decided to try to just deliver the baby on his own. And things went wrong. She ended up dying, and so did the baby. And he felt this immense weight and guilt and grief from his decision. And he decided to spend the rest of his life trying to seek like redemption in some sort of a way from her, even though she had passed on. And just spent his life like dedicated to, I think, trying to make up in some sort of a way for what he did. Overall, I will say the book is very well written. It is confusing in some parts, but it is overall a very well written book. It did piss me off, so I did not really, I think certain contexts of just the story and things that had happened, I didn't really like it for that reason. But overall, if I had to say, is it a good book overall, like how it is written and everything, it is very good in that kind of a way. And I think that, even though I was kind of put off by a lot of parts in this book, it was good. So I thought that I would just share it in case somebody else might find this interesting and, want to read it. I think it's called Laurus, and it's by Eugene. I do not know how to pronounce the last name. It's Vodolazkin. And yeah, so again, this isn't something that I probably ever would have, thought to read myself, but it was good. It was a well-written book. And then, so for this upcoming month, which is April, I am deciding to read this book, which is 12 Years a Slave by Solomon Northup. And there's this little thing right here that says soon to be a major motion picture, but I'm sure this has been out for a while, I'm pretty sure. So I think that there already is a movie about the book, or and I like to read books often that have movies because I like to read the book and then watch the movie. So that's what I thought that I would do. I thought that I would read this and then watch the movie and see if it's anything like the book is, or what it's all about. So I guess that I could read descriptions here on these books. So this one right here is winner of the National Big Book Award, 15th century Russia. It is a time of plague and pestilence, and a young healer skilled in the art of herbs and remedies finds himself overcome with grief and guilt when he fails to save the life of his beloved. Leaving behind his village, his possessions, and his name, he sets out on a quest for redemption, penniless and alone. But this is no ordinary journey. Wandering across the plague-ridden Europe, offering his healing powers to all in need, he travels through ages and countries, encountering a rich tapestry of wayfarers along the way, accosted by highwaymen, lynched in the Balkans, and washed overboard at sea. He eventually reaches Jerusalem, only to find his greatest challenge is yet to come. I do not remember what that part was about, so this is really something that maybe I should read again, but this is a good book. And this one says, for sheer drama, few accounts of slavery match Solomon Northup's tale of abduction from freedom and forcible enslavement. Perhaps the best written of all the slave narratives, 12 Years a Slave is a harrowing memoir about one of the darkest periods in American history. It recounts how Solomon Northup, born a free man in New York, was lured to Washington, D.C. in 1841 with the promise of fast money, and then drugged and beaten and sold into slavery. He spent the next 12 years of his life in captivity on a Louisiana cotton plantation. After his rescue, Northup published this exceptionally vivid and detailed account of his slave life. It became an immediate bestseller and today is recognized for its unusual insight and eloquence as one of the very few portraits of American slavery produced by someone as educated as Solomon Northup, or by someone with dual perspective of having been both a free man and a slave. A moving, vital testament to one of slavery's many thousands gone, who retained his humanity in the bubbles of degradation. It is also a chilling insight into the peculiar institution. So I thought that this sounds like a really good book, and I thought it was interesting because the last couple of books that I've got online, I buy them used, so other people have them before me, and in one of the books was a train ticket. I don't think I've ever seen a train ticket before in my life, so I found that to be interesting, and then just, thinking about and wondering who that person was, where they are now, what their life is like, all of that. But in this book, I found this thing that I think somebody made as like a bookmark. It looked like a butterfly, but when I looked closer at it, there was a face on it, like the face of a woman. It's probably, I don't know if it's just one of those old paintings or an actual, somebody that maybe I should know, like a historical person. But I thought that was interesting, and just wondering, who made this and where are they, and just wondering, things like that. I find that so interesting when I find little things like that. So I thought that I would just continue to use it as a bookmark, and these are the books that I have read and am about to read, and then I will make another video and share what I thought about this book, and then probably the movie too, because I think I will try to watch this after I read the book. So that is the books that I have to review right now.